Chris Bucco has sources. He says it's a done deal with the Jets and Zach Wilson. Chris, all due respect, I don't think you're right. I think that the Jets are not going to take Zach Wilson. I want to ask you what you think about this, Fish. I don't think they're going to take Zach Wilson. I think it's been pretty clear coming out of New Jersey that either ownership or the front office feels that Sam Darnold hasn't been given a fair shot, and that the job there is to put a supporting cast around him, and just swapping him out for another quarterback wouldn't necessarily put the next quarterback in the position to succeed, even if he's good. So what I think they're going to do, I don't think it's a coincidence that this trade was consummated when the Niners were at the BYU Pro Day. I'm guessing that Kyle spoke to Saleh. He said, look, man, you don't need to tell me who you're taking, but just tell me if you're not taking Zach Wilson. Let me know. And Robert says, I can't lie to you, man. We're not going to take Zach Wilson. It's not our guy. If you want to move up to 3, go for it. I think that's probably what happened. And then on draft day, the Niners will make a little swap, the two, what they did with Chicago, except the other way around. And the Niners will move up and get Zach Wilson. And the Jets will move down and get Kyle Pitts, who I think is going to be the top non-quarterback taken. I guess him or Sewell. But why would they take an offensive tackle? They took one last year. I think Pitts would be the guy. It would be Mike LaFleur getting his George Kittle. It kind of makes sense. What do you think?
The one reservation I have so I have two problems with this line of thinking. I love that line of thinking from the 49ers perspective, because to me, Fields and Wilson are like, my hands aren't seen. They're like this for me. They're in the same level. So they're kind of the same for me. I'd be ecstatic with either. But the thing with the Jets is that two things. The first thing is that I just don't think this is the draft to not take a quarterback. See, when you're sitting there at 2, and I think even if you're going down to 3, there's just not a non-quarterback in this draft that that's worth taking. There's no Nick Bosa. There's no Chase Young. There's no that one player in this draft that should be a top 5 pick as a non-quarterback, that's just a generational guy. That's a plug and play. You don't have much questions about him. So
I think people
maybe
really like Kyle Pitts, man.
Yeah, but the position, I think taking a tight end at 2 or 3 is always, it's always rich, and he's great. He's really great. He's every bit as good, but he's one of the few players where the hype is legit. So that's one. 2, Albert Breer said this morning in his article that the Niners are pretty assured that the Jets are staying pat at 2. So it's always been moving up to 3 and 3.
Maybe they just flat out take Kyle Pitts at 2.
If you're Roberts, the bottom line is that they've tried to move Sam Darnold. It feels like for 2 months now, and there's just no market for Sam Darnold. It looks like Sam Darnold's agents have done a great job of making ESPN people constantly say that everybody's interested in Sam Darnold. He's so talented. He's so good. But the bottom line is that we've seen teams shell out $10 million for a 37-year-old Ryan Fitzpatrick instead of paying a second-round pick for Sam Darnold. We've seen that type of things happen. We've seen enough articles where people talk to executives and they say, maybe a 3rd, maybe you bring him in for a 4th. But we've seen stuff like that. The contractual situation with him sucks. It really does suck in terms of having no financial tie to him after this year without having to pay him a large amount of guaranteed money. So from that standpoint, it makes no sense. And then if you're Robert Saleh, if you're Joe Douglas, if you're Mike LaFleur, you're looking for job security. If you keep Sam Darnold and Sam Darnold does not play good football once again next year, then, man, your timetable out of New York starts quickly because you couldn't turn around Sam Darnold, and the media fawns over Sam Darnold. So the media is going to blame you for not being able to turn around Sam Darnold than blaming Sam Darnold himself. That's just one side point. That doesn't really have much to do with it. But the other thing is that if you go and pick Zach Wilson, even if your team is bad, which it is, though I think they'll have a better situation for Zach Wilson than they did for Sam Darnold when he was picked. And I do think Zach Wilson is a better player than Sam Darnold when he was coming out of college. But that's besides the point. The one thing that you're going to have, if you're Joe Douglas, if you're Michael Ford, if you're Robert Saleh, you're going to have at least 2 years. There's going to be no pressure on you to win until Zach Wilson's 3rd year. You're going to be playing with house money. If you look at Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray, the honeymoon stage has just ended for them, and they're going to have to go win this year. Otherwise, Cliff is probably gone. And it's like that. So they got 3 years to work with. 3 years is a long time in the NFL in terms of job security. So from that standpoint, I just, as much as I would like for them to stick with Sam Darnold and let the Niners take Zach Wilson and things to go well like that, it just doesn't feel like a likely scenario to me.
I just think it's pretty clear that no one knows what they're going to do. Like people don't even, John Lynch today said, well, it's unknown what the Jets are going to do. I didn't buy that. But like publicly, you don't even know if they're going to take a quarterback. I mean, they're not saying what they're going to do. And it seems to me like the PR spin they're trying to sell on the East Coast is that Gay sucked. Darnold never had a chance. And they're going to give him a chance. I don't know if it's going to work, but I think that's what they're trying to sell. And if that's what they're trying to sell, then just repeat.
You know what I think they're trying to sell, Grant? I think you're right that they're trying to sell something. I just think you're missing what they're trying to sell. And I think what they're trying to sell is Darnold himself. Grant, he hasn't been moved.
Yeah, but Darnold isn't worth anything. I mean, you're not going to get anything for Darnold.
That's the point. I think they're trying to sell that this guy is just Gase's problem. But the other thing for him is that Adam Gase isn't coaching anywhere where he might want to reclaim Sam Darnold. Hold on. Jeremy Bates isn't anywhere.
Hold on, but they're telling their fan base, like, look, it's not Darnold's fault. He didn't have a chance. Then to bring in another quarterback who wouldn't have a chance, it's like the same logic would apply. It just doesn't seem like they'd be talking out both sides of their neck at that point.
Arizona did that, Grant. Arizona tried telling you that it's not Josh Rosen's fault, and they even had 2 franchise players in Quinnen Williams and Nick Bosa in the draft to kind of sell it. They took Kyler Murray, and there was something different from day one with their franchise.